Om Ganya Timirandasya Ganajana Shalakaya Chakshun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadanti Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalan Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagarajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vidam Tam Satjivam Sadvaitam Sadvidutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakans Vitamscha E Krishna Karuna Sindho Dina Bando Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchkana Gourangi Radhe Vrinda Vaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpa Tarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you, devotees. Thank you to all those who are attending in class and also through Zoom, YouTube, Facebook, and all those who will attend later. So, like I said, we'll be starting with Chapter 9, the most confidential knowledge, text 16. We'll be reciting the Sanskrit, the Roman transliteration, and then the translation in unison, if you'd like. Text 16. Aham kratur aham yagya swadaham aham asoram mantroham aham evajyam aham agnir aham utam. Translation. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Text 17. Pitaham asya jagato mata data pitamaha vejam pavitram omkara riksama yajur evacha. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. 18. Gatir Bharta Prabhu Sakshi Nivasa Sharanam Sukhrit Prabhava Pralaya Stanam Nidhanam Bijam Avyayam. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. Text 19. Tapam yaham aham varsham nigranam yushrivyami cha amritam chaiva mrityushcha sad asachchaham Arjuna. O Arjuna, I control heat, the rain, and the drought. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both being and non-being are in me. Text 20. Trividyamam soma paputa papa yagyar ishtva swarkatim prartayante te punyamasajya surenjalokam ashnanti divyan divideva bhogan. Those who study the Vedas and drink the soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. They take birth on the planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. Te tam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam kshine punye marcha lokam vishanti evam trai dharmamanu prapana gata gatam kama kama labante. When they have thus enjoyed heavenly sense pleasure, they return to this mortal planet again. Thus, through the Vedic principles, they achieve only flickering happiness. Text 22. Ananyaschintayanto mam ye jana parupasate tesham nitya biyuktanam yogakshemham yaham yaham. But those who worship me with devotion, meditating on my transcendental form, to them I carry what they lack and preserve what they have. Text 23. Yepyanya devata bhakta yajante shradayan vitaha tepi mam eva konteya yajantya vidhi purvakam. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. 24. Aham hi sarva yajnanam bhokta cha prabhur eva cha natum mam abhijananti tatvena natashtvantite. I am the only enjoyer and the only object of sacrifice. Those who do not recognize my true transcendental nature fall down. Text 25. Yanti deva vrita devan pitrin yanti pitra vritaha bhutani yanti bhuteja yanti madhyajinopi mam. Those who worship the demigods will take birth among the demigods. Those who worship ghosts and spirits will take birth among such beings. Those who worship ancestors go to the ancestors, and those who worship me will live with me. 26. Last text. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhaktuparitam ashnami prayatatmanaha. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Now we'll go back to text 16. But it is I who am the ritual, I the sacrifice, the offering to the ancestors, the healing herb, the transcendental chant. I am the butter and the fire and the offering. Purport by His Divine Grace, Abhay Charanara Vindam Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. The sacrifice known as Jyotishtoma is also Krishna, and he is also the Mahayagya, the oblations offered to the Pitraloka or the sacrifice performed to please the Pitraloka, considered as a kind of drug in the form of clarified butter, is also Krishna. The mantras chanted in this connection are also Krishna, and many other commodities made with milk products for offering in the sacrifices are also Krishna. The fire is also Krishna because fire is one of the 5 material elements and is therefore claimed as the separated energy of Krishna. In other words, the Vedic sacrifices recommended in the Karmakanda division of the Vedas are in total also Krishna. Or, in other words, those who are engaged in rendering devotional service unto Krishna are to be understood to have performed all the sacrifices recommended in the Vedas. So Krishna is giving us the most confidential knowledge as noted by the chapter title in this chapter. So he's telling us that he's the ritual, he's the sacrifice, he's the offering to the ancestors, he's the healing herb, he's the transcendental chant, the butter and the fire. And later we'll read further in the purports that he's everything, actually. He's everything, he's matter and he's spirit. But of course, these are the matter is his separated energies, as Prabhupada is mentioning in the purport. Umirapo nalo vayu. So these 8 separated material energies are emanating or coming from Krishna. They're part of the Mahat Tattva, this material energy that is noted as the inferior energy of the Lord. So we should understand that at once they're the same, but they're also different. And Prabhupada will clarify that more as we read through the purports. Text 17. I am the father of this universe, the mother, the support, and the grandsire. I am the object of knowledge, the purifier, and the syllable Om. I am also the Rik, the Sama, and the Yajur Vedas. So the Vedas have many parts to them. The Vedas are vast. We only have access to a small percentage of what actually has existed, just because of time and degradation. These are all still available, the Rik, the Sama, and the Yajur. But in our line, in the Parampara, in our disciplic succession, the Acharyas focus on the Srimad Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad Gita, and especially as introductory text to understanding Krishna consciousness. So that's why we focus on those, although there are many other Vedas. Purport. The entire cosmic manifestations, moving and non-moving, are manifested by different activities of Krishna's energy. In the material existence, we create different relationships with different living entities who are nothing but Krishna's marginal energy. But under the creation of Prakriti, some of them appear as our father, mother, grandfather, creator, and so on. But actually, they are parts and parcels of Krishna. As such, these living entities who appear to be our father, mother, and so on are nothing but Krishna. In this verse, the word Data means creator. Not only are our father and mother parts and parcels of Krishna, but their creator, grandmother, and grandfather, and so on are also Krishna. Actually, any living entity being part and parcel of Krishna is Krishna. All the Vedas, therefore, aim only toward Krishna. Whatever we want to know through the Vedas is but a progressive step to understand Krishna. That subject matter which helps us purify our constitutional position is especially Krishna. Similarly, the living entity who is inquisitive to understand all Vedic principles is also part and parcel of Krishna, and as such is also Krishna. In all the Vedic mantras, the word Om, called Pranava, is a transcendental sound vibration and is also Krishna. And because in all the hymns of the 4 Vedas, Sama, Yajur, Rig, and Atharva, the Pranava or Omkar is very prominent, it is understood to be Krishna. So we gather our knowledge from Shabda Brahma, which is transcendental sound. And we're hearing from this purport that this transcendental sound is Krishna. So we can take instruction from that transcendental sound and leave all the material sound behind. So we're understanding from this purport that Krishna is everything. And although Krishna is everything, he's also a person. He also has, and we're also a person. We're individuals. We have our minute independence. But on one level, we can understand that we are Krishna. And we can also understand that we are not Krishna. We are Krishna in the sense that we're part of his energy. We're eternal, just like he is eternal. But we don't have the same abilities that Krishna has. Like Magadari mentioned in a previous class, jivas can attain 78% of the qualities of Krishna. And quality, but not in quantity. So sometimes we might tend to fall into these ideas thinking that we're Krishna, we're God. But we should know those to be incorrect according to the Vedas. We should know that we're emanating from Krishna. We're not the original, but we're emanating from him. And all those around us have also emanated from him. And our mother and our father, our grandmother and our grandfather have all emanated from Krishna. And they're just in a temporary position, just like we are in a temporary position. We can see that our body has been changing for the past so many years. So we can understand that our bodies are not temporary, but something inside of us has stayed the same, and that's the spirit soul. And we can understand that that is part and parcel of Krishna. Mamai vamsho jivaloke jivabhuta sanatanaha. Manashastin nidriyani prakritistani karshati. So we're part and parcel of Krishna. We're eternal. And unlike him, we are struggling very hard with our six senses, which include the mind. So from that, we can also understand that we are not God. We are jiva souls, parts and parcels of the Lord. Same in quality, but not same in quantity. Just like the ocean, a drop of the ocean has the same qualities as the entire ocean, but it does not have the same qualities or quantity. Text 18. I am the goal, the sustainer, the master, the witness, the abode, the refuge, and the most dear friend. I am the creation and the annihilation, the basis of everything, the resting place, and the eternal seed. Gati, purport. Gati means the destination where we want to go. But the ultimate goal is Krishna. Although people do not know it, one who does not know about Krishna is misled, and his so-called progressive march is either partial or hallucinatory. There are many who make as their destination different demigods, and by rigid performance of the strict respective methods, they reach different planets known as Chandraloka, Suryaloka, Indraloka, Maharloka, and so on. But all such lokas or planets, being creations of Krishna, are simultaneously Krishna and not Krishna. Actually, such planets, being the manifestations of Krishna's energy, are also Krishna, but actually they only serve as a step forward for realization of Krishna. To approach the different energies of Krishna is to approach Krishna indirectly. One should directly approach Krishna, for that will save time and energy. For example, if there is a possibility of going to the top of a building by the help of an elevator, why should one go by the staircase step by step? Everything is resting on Krishna's energy. Therefore, without Krishna's shelter, nothing can exist. Krishna is the supreme ruler because everything belongs to him and everything exists on his energy. Krishna, being situated in everyone's heart, is the supreme witness. Sakshi. The residents, countries, or planets on which we live are also Krishna. Krishna is the ultimate goal of shelter, and as such, one should take shelter of Krishna, either for protection or for annihilation of his distressed condition. And whenever we have to take protection, we should know that our protection must be a living force. Thus, Krishna is a supreme living entity. Since Krishna is a source of our generation, or the Supreme Father, no one can be a better friend than Krishna. Nor can anyone be a better well-wisher. Krishna is the original source of creation and the ultimate rest after annihilation. Krishna is therefore the eternal cause of all causes. Sarva Karana Karanam. Krishna is the cause of all causes. So, Prabhupada's telling us that why go to these temporary sources of pleasure, which are the demigods, the different planets. Why not just approach him directly? He's the source of everything. Aham bija pradapita. He's the seed-giving father. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. He's the source of all the spiritual and material planets. He's everything. But as we're hearing again, he's also a person. He's a father, giving us all life, giving us all the ability to choose what we do at every moment. We can choose to serve Krishna or not serve Krishna in every moment, and to not fall into, and to not go on this so-called progressive march that's hallucinatory. So let's not take part in this hallucination. Like a hallucination is temporary, just as our lives here and our current bodies are temporary. But we should try to attach ourselves to Krishna, because Krishna is permanent. He's the source of everything. So from the source of everything, we can become full in knowledge, Satchit Ananda Vigraha. We can get that knowledge, we can get understanding of who we are. If we just seek after Krishna, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. Krishna will give us, we just try to love him, we just try to serve him, then Krishna is going to give us the understanding to go to him, to go to that place that's permanent, that doesn't change. We want something that doesn't change. And that way we can become fully satisfied. Text 19. O Arjuna, I control heat, the rain, and the drought. I am immortality, and I am also death personified. Both being and non-being are in me. Purport. Krishna, by his different energies, diffuses heat and light through the agency of electricity and the sun. During summer season, it is Krishna who checks rain from falling from the sky. And then during the rainy season, he gives unceasing torrents of rain. The energy which sustains us by prolonging the duration of our life is Krishna. And Krishna meets us at the end as death. By analyzing all these different energies of Krishna, one can ascertain for Krishna there is no distinction between matter and spirit, or in other words, he is both matter and spirit. In the advanced stage of Krishna consciousness, one does not therefore make such distinctions. He sees Krishna only in everything. In the Uttama Adhikari stage, one is not able to distinguish between who is not a devotee, who is a devotee, material, spiritual. He's fixed in his consciousness and can see that Krishna is in everything and everything is Krishna. He also knows who Krishna is. He can distinguish, he knows that who the Supreme Personality of Godhead is, and that he is a person. Since Krishna is both matter and spirit, that gigantic universal form comprising all material manifestations is also Krishna. In his pastimes in Vrindavan as two-handed Shyamasundar, playing on a flute, are those of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Krishna has so many qualities. He has so many energies. But through that, we can also see that Krishna is two-handed Shyamasundar, in this most lovely form, this most relishable form. Krishna is all the planets and all the stars, but we can't really have a reciprocal relationship with a star. So fortunately, Krishna has presented himself in this two-handed form, Shyamasundar, who we can have a relationship with. Text 20. Those who study the Vedas and drink the Soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets, worship me indirectly. They take birth on the planet of Indra, where they enjoy godly delights. So we should understand from this chapter pretty clearly in the next few verses about demigods, demigod worship, what the purpose of demigod worship is, and who actually we should surrender to. Yes, we should put more. Okay.
Just a short comment. In the previous verse, Krishna is saying he's death. The atheists, they don't believe in God, but Krishna says, I come as death. So that's a little learning lesson for the atheists. They get at the end of their life. They can find out that maybe there is God, because otherwise, why am I forced to die? Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. We also have the three material miseries of this world, Adidaivika, Adibodhika, and Adhyatmika. So from these material miseries, we can understand that we have no control, especially those of Adidaivika, the drought, the rain, pestilence. We don't have any control over these things. Sometimes we don't have any control over our minds. The mind takes over and we let it take over. We forget that we have the intelligence to control it, and we have cyclical thoughts about things. We become disturbed. When honestly, if we get down to the truth about things, that we're not our bodies, that we're spirit soul, then we can understand that there's no reason to be disturbed. Of course, it will take a lot of practice and mind control to come to that level of saying, why be disturbed all the time? Of course, there's different levels. We can have concern about things, about what's going on around us. But we can be level-headed about that and not let it take over our minds. Because if we let it take over our minds, that separates us from meditating on Shama Sundar. Text 23. Whatever a man may sacrifice to other gods, O son of Kunti, is really meant for me alone, but it is offered without true understanding. Let's read this purport. Persons who are engaged in the worship of demigods are not very intelligent, although such worship is done to me indirectly, Krishna says. For example, when a man pours water on the leaves and branches of a tree without pouring water on the root, he does so without sufficient knowledge or without observing regulative principles. Similarly, the process of rendering service to different parts of the body is to supply food to the stomach. The demigods are, so to speak, different officers and directors in the government of the Supreme Lord. One has to follow the laws made by the government, not by the officers or directors. Similarly, everyone is to offer his worship to the Supreme Lord only. That will automatically satisfy the different officers and directors of the Lord. The officers and directors are engaged as representatives of the government, and to offer some bribe to the officers and directors is illegal. This is stated here as avidi purvakam. In other words, Krishna does not approve the unnecessary worship of the demigods. Krishna wants us to worship him, but of course he's complete and satisfied wherever he's at. He doesn't need us to worship him, but he desires it. He's our ever well-wisher. And by being our ever well-wisher, he cares for us. He loves us. He wants what's best for us. So sometimes in our daily lives, things happen to us that we could perceive to be negative. But if we have this vision of or this perception that there is no good or bad. It's all our perspective. So we ask, the question that a lot of people ask is, why do good things happen to bad people? Or why do bad things happen to seemingly good people? And of course, we can understand that everything's being orchestrated by Krishna, and Krishna wants to fulfill our desire. So Krishna is going to fulfill our desire, but sometimes those desires we have come with a reaction. And we might perceive that reaction to be negative, like someone losing a life. Well, we can understand that they don't actually lose their life. They're eternal spirit soul. So we see in that perspective, we don't have to lament in those situations. Of course, we should show compassion. We should have empathy for those who are suffering. We should show them Maha Mantra, explain it to them in such a way where they can understand on their level, where they can slowly come up to knowing who Krishna is. Because sometimes if you try to explain something to someone, like if you explain calculus to a kindergartner, they're not going to understand. So you have to start off with the baby steps, and slowly they'll get there. They'll get to the level of reading Bhagavad Gita, which is actually a pretty high level. It might seem to us that it's, some of the easier philosophy to understand. It's not so esoteric compared to other philosophy, but some of the points in the Srimad Bhagavad Gita are quite complicated, and it might be explained straightforward. In the Jaya, for the soul, there's never birth nor death, nor having been does he ever cease to be. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. So we have these simple things that make sense to us now, but to others that might not make sense to their current paradigm. So we have to explain it in such a way where they can understand these teachings. So we have the responsibility as practicing devotees to present these topics in a way for a wide audience to understand. Not that we dumb down the teachings, but we explain it simply. Yes, Rishikumar. Okay, go ahead, Gurudev.
Yeah, I'd like to speak on the text and purport of 620. And Krishna is speaking about those who worship demigods, study the Vedas, and drink soma juice, seeking the heavenly planets. That's the indirect. Why is that worship of me indirectly? Because they really want some increased sense gratification. So they're karmis. But because they're following the Vedic system, then by associating with the demigods who are on higher levels of consciousness, like Indra and other saintly persons, they go to Janaloka, Maharloka. These are very high levels. There are great Brahmins there, great Vaishnavas. And by such association, and by their faith that has increased by receiving the enjoyments they were promised in the three Vedas, they become more convinced that maybe there really is a God, maybe there really is a supreme abode where I never have to die at all. Maybe that's my real home. Maybe I'll be happier than I am here because I keep suffering here even though I'm trying to enjoy myself in this heavenly planet. Still there's something missing. So then the Gyanis can explain that you're the soul more. And then ultimately the Bhaktas can explain, yes, where the souls in our natural position is as servants. Chivera Surpoinda Chiyara Krishna Das. Our eternal servant, our duty, our dharma, our Sanatana Dharma is to serve Krishna, to serve the whole. Then we'll be satisfied. So this is why it appears that Krishna is recommending demigod worship. He's recommending it for those who are only on that level, not able to go more than that right now. And then later on, they'll be able to go higher. Thank you.
Thank you, Maharaj. We should have our goal fixed on understanding who Krishna is and be one-pointed in that focus, be resolute in that determination. That's the only way we'll achieve our goal, which is love of Godhead. So the last verse I read today is, if one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it. So this is one example of how we can come to love Krishna, is if we offer him foodstuffs, prepare them nicely and offer them to him. And in that way we can grow our relationship with Krishna. Krishna is asking us to do this. So when we develop a relationship, we might ask one of our friends, how can I serve you? Well, Krishna's telling us here how we can serve him. And so we can come to know him on his terms directly. Okay, I'll stop there. If is there any questions? Yes, Krishnandu, Das Brahmachari.
Hare Krishna. Whoa. I recall hearing in one of the purports, Prabhupada said it's progressive march, which is hallucinatory. I was wondering if you could tell us what this hallucination is and how we can know if we're still in it or not.
This hallucination is that we're in the material world, we're going to get somewhere. And during the time that Prabhupada wrote this, there was a lot of innovation happening. Computers were coming out, like they were starting to use them to type up the Chaitanya Charitamrita and everything, you know. So everything was progressing in some way. But I like the example he gives about how there's so many cars here, and because there's so many cars here, then there's going to be deaths by the car. A car is dangerous. And unlike a bull car, of course, there's still accidents with bullock cart. But so these progressive march towards something is illusory, because it might be progressing towards something, but that something is death, actually, more death. The term that I heard this called is Maya Sukaya. So it's illusion, that we might be getting better at something, but that comes at a cost. So we think we're getting better. So that's the hallucination we're suffering. Do you have any ideas for yourself on what that might mean? You can enlighten us too. Do you have anything you could share about what you thought that meant too? Okay. How do we know if we're hallucinating?
Because we may take to spiritual life or be interested in spiritual practices, but we may be affected by these things still. So how can we know if we're, fixed, like on the proper path or not?
Krishna says, Arjuna, now that you're armed with knowledge or armed with yoga, fight, right? So we need a clear understanding of the philosophy in order to, an understanding of the philosophy, and also, more faith. The more faith we have, which comes about by spending more time with devotees and understanding the thought processes that we kind of use in devotional service. We do use in devotional service. So for me, a clear grasp of the philosophy has helped me avoid so many pitfalls, especially mental pitfalls that one could face. If we don't understand that we're an eternal spirit soul, and we don't understand reincarnation, then it's hard to make progress, because the mind is so fickle that if something happens that's not to our liking, then we're going to be immediately taken from the path. Immediately. So in some way, mainly by spending time with fixed up devotees, we become fixed up ourselves, and so we can more clearly understand the philosophy. Of course, the philosophy is not everything. The philosophy leads us to Krishna. It teaches us that we have to love Krishna. We have to develop that relationship. If that wasn't there, we might be considered, Mayavadis. There's no object of love. It's just all philosophy. So we have this goal to learn to love Krishna. Yes, Rishima.
Yeah. Daydreams and night dreams. We have night dreams. They're full of hallucinations. Whole thing is made up in our minds. None of it's real. And during the daytime, we also have some hallucination, thinking I'm this body, and I'm a citizen of this country, and I have this responsibility and this. These are all somewhat hallucinatory because they don't really apply to us as a soul. So a devotee has to have clearly understanding that my duty is serve Krishna all the time. Gopi Bharpura Kamalawar, Dasa Dasa Mandasa. I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of Krishna. In that mood, he just wants to do more and more service. Wants to keep himself always engaged. So there's no room for Maya. No room for. And our four regulative principles, if we follow them, then we're safeguarded against gross hallucination. But we should always hear Bhagavad Gita discussions about Krishna consciousness. That way, our minds will be curtailed from unnecessary hallucinations. Thank you.
Hari Bifale. I was thinking of that. I've spent so much time not loving Krishna, not serving Radha and Krishna. It's like I've drinking poison knowingly. So we can all try to serve Krishna more and more. Yes, Prabhu.
It'll come. In line with his question, how do we know if we're serving the hallucination or, something along those lines? Would this relate to frustration, anger, those things? If we're going the wrong direction, we'll experience adversity. If we're chasing the hallucination, it will only be dissatisfied further and further and further. Is that perhaps a measure of whether we're on the right track? Is our peace of mind?
That's definitely there. As one progresses in spiritual life, they learn to tolerate more. They learn to know what's important and what's not important. They prioritize. And what they mainly prioritize is their spiritual life, because they know Yayatma Suprasiddhiti. They know that the only way to become fully satisfied in life as a spirit soul is to serve Krishna. And so the more we start to serve Krishna, which we can be guided by devotees who are more advanced than we are, and we can see they're more advanced than we are. They're more level-headed. Of course, there's all different kinds of devotees. Not every devotee is the same, but controlling anger, that's an important thing. So we understand from chapter 2, Dhyayato Vishayam Pungsang Sangashte Shupajayate Sanga Sanjayate Kama Kama Krodha Vijayate. While contemplating the objects of the senses, a person develops attachment to them. And from attachment, lust develops. And from lust, anger arises. So that's where the anger comes from, is because we're attached and we're lusting after things. It's quite systematic. And those who are more advanced are less attached to those material things. They become detached from material activities and become more attached to serving Krishna. And we understand how to serve Krishna by the 9 processes of devotional service. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. Those are the main ones. Hearing, chanting, and that hearing and chanting leads to remembering the Lord. So slowly we'll be able to understand these things, and we'll want to devote more of our time to serving Krishna in those ways. But of course, in the beginning stages, like myself, we have to dovetail our propensity, our nature into serving Krishna. Like maybe we work a job. Well, we can dovetail that job by incorporating more Krishna conscious things, thoughts at work, depending on what you do. But there's ways to integrate Krishna into your life more and more. And of course, if you have more questions about that, there's devotees here who are expert at that. Like Jivadoya, he's a very talented musician, and he incorporates Krishna into so many parts of his activities as a musician, and it's so nice. Some of his music is so nice. So the main thing is learning how to do these things from other devotees and inquiring about that, because there's always a way. It's part of the loving relationship that we have with devotees, is revealing our mind in confidence. And so through that, we can understand more and more about what this Krishna consciousness movement is and what it's trying to teach us. Okay. Thank you, devotees. I'll stop there. Srimad Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Vanchakalpa tribhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha.